There's a few things that I really want to state very clearly at the start of this video, because I think those are the most important facts. So if you only stick around for that and you want to weigh in on these this TLDR right at the start of the video, feel free. But it's first and foremost that if you're a parent, I'm a parent, please be very careful. And I actually would say don't let your kids play free-to-play games. I think essentially they easily run into predatory nature. Now, there is a range, and I know I've heard a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about specific free-to-play games, but generally speaking, my personal view is that if it's free-to-play, I don't let my kids play it. There's got to be some upfront cost that I'm willing to spend to let them in. And I think what this article that we're going to go into, and it'll be linked in the description, is going to highlight a lot of that. Now, if you're an adult gamer, you're free to spend your money however you want. I'm not here to judge you on how you choose to spend your money and your time. That's just my overall view when it comes to free to play. But I think that there's a couple things working on here, and I debated making this video because when it comes down to social media, like there is this aspect of why give them free publicity. And so right now you're seeing review bombs hitting Diablo Immortal right now, but it still is a part of this TLDR. Like there is a part of me that goes, making this video in a way is giving them free press. Being angry about the game in a way is giving them free press. I've already seen numerous articles popping up over and over again, and the nature in us is we want to be frustrated and share that frustration, but in a weird way that frustration leads to, in a way, promotion. And you might not necessarily agree, but it's kind of, you know, it's kind of true when you actually look at it. I highly expect, and while at the same time would be completely surprised and happy by this surprise if it didn't happen, but I do completely expect to see some form of announcement how Diablo Immortal is the most played and the most profitable and the most this and the most that game for Blizzard, or for Activision Blizzard in this case, because when it comes down to it, I think that us, the passionate gamers, tend to be kind of the vocal minority when it comes to the sheer volume of players. And I could go on a long list of FIFA, Madden, Call of Duty, like all of these games that continue to frustrate gamers, especially with some of the predatory practices that they bring in. Activision Blizzard kind of being one of the biggest offenders, in my opinion. Also, EA comes to mind when it comes down to it. You could even think of Ubisoft, and you could think of NFTs. Like you could think of all of these things that I think are problems, I guess is the most polite word that I can use right now within gaming, and it being something that we should talk about and we need to continue to talk about it, but trying to find the right way so that it doesn't act as free promotion. Because ultimately what I find is that someone goes and watches one of those videos or sees something and goes, oh, really, how bad is it? And then they go get involved, and then they end up maybe getting hooked, because sunk cost fallacy tends to be something that really drives us forward. But we're going to go through this article. We're going to talk about it. You guys can let me know what your thoughts are, especially as it relates to Diablo Immortal. And yeah, it's something that we have to do. And I don't know what's the right solution, because clearly not spending a dime on these games, you know, somebody is, you know, and anyway. So all in all, again, link to this article is going to be in the description of the video, but let's jump into it. So a couple of things that I see here, especially as it relates to the game. Now, I put out a video talking about how my controller play on PC was subpar, and that still stands. We haven't seen updates yet for that, but people are saying on iOS and Android, it seems to work really well. Now, the article goes to talk about how Diablo Immortal currently is being review bombed, but if we start to look at some of the numbers, currently it is not the worst review bomb game from them yet, with Warcraft 3 Reforged at a 0.6, World of Warcraft Burning Crusade Classic at a 0.4. Those are some pretty low scores, but it sends one message, but at the end of the day, I think essentially they're looking at the money, right? And especially if they continue to be acquired by Microsoft, we'll know more about that within, I guess, the next 12 months if that goes through. Yeah, I think it's essentially there's going to be a big money aspect. And with the transition over, it does give them a clean slate when it comes down to just the discussion of Activision Blizzard. Oh, that was the old Activision Blizzard. The new Activision Blizzard still, you know, a part of Microsoft, happy to make money, happy to continue those games. And look, those are the old Blizzard games. This is what we're going to do going forward. So when we look at that, these are some of the lowest non-negative scores since 2019's Switch port of Overwatch. And the main argument that this game has, that it initially seems to be responsible with its use of microtransactions, and it really is only when you hit the end game that it actually feels intrusive. And so if you look at the mobile score on Apple iOS and Android, ratings are coming in at around a 4.1 and a 4.7 out of 5. And this is where that mobile aspect from gaming culture really does like lean its weight into that casual gamer who just doesn't care, who isn't either informed or it doesn't really matter, and they're going to grind out the game and they're going to play, and maybe they'll buy a battle pass and maybe they'll get, you know, $5 out of them. Doesn't count for the whales. But overall, like when people are primarily playing this game on mobile, a Metacritic review score doesn't really, I think, hurt them. It's not going to keep the masses away from them because it doesn't cost you anything to download, play, and then once you keep playing, in fact, that it does have that easy play experience up until you hit the end game, that it starts putting on that pressure. I do wonder if we'll see them make some adjustments, and if they do make some adjustments to the monetization, it's all going to be in their best interest to try to make more money off the game itself. Hey, good guy Blizzard's come in and they fixed the problem that they created, and go from there. Anyway, Paul Tassie's kind of tweeting out that the game is absolutely pay to win. I covered this on my guide video, kind of the frequently asked questions, just to get that information out to everybody. But you know, I'm just one person. Hopefully more and more people are talking about that, so people are very well aware of what they're stepping into. Anyway, one commenter says the game is a bleep ton of fun and they highly appreciate you can put 30 plus hours into the game for free. However, it's once they reach level 50 plus that you really start to feel more of the pay to win aspects of the game. Now, if you're below level 50, they ask, don't defend the game as it is your own child. It was designed to feel free to play, friendly below that level. So there's obviously people like who are passionate about the experience and the game, and this is something that's interesting within gaming culture. I see a lot of people say that you know, who come in and they're like, oh, all we got to do is, you know, everybody that plays video games just needs to stop supporting them, and that ends up being something completely unrealistic. My approach ends up being that we just need to continue to educate more gamers on what they're getting into, and maybe even offer them alternatives, because the idea that someone's going to just stop playing video games, especially ones that they have a deep connection with, because Diablo as a franchise already does have that sunk cost, you know, theory baked into it, right? Because we've already been playing Diablo 1 and 2 and 3 and Immortal, and then the Horizon has Diablo 4, and a lot of people are worried that the current system is going to impact Diablo 4. What are you going to do? Like, I don't think it's going to impact Diablo 4. I think that's a great way for them to get big marketing buzz and like, look at us. Like, you got the Immortal free-to-play microtransactions pay-to-win game, and then you got Diablo 4, which maybe has a box price. Who knows? But it would be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see in terms of like if we get any kind of number reports regarding the money that they made. Now, I kind of browsed over this earlier because I think even Bellular was the one who were calculating this, or they were sourcing somebody else's, but they say it could technically cost you up to $110,000 to fully upgrade your character. And you know what? If you're gonna whale, I mean, that's a way to whale. Spend a whole year's salary plus on a game. Whoo boy. All right, so then it goes on, the article goes on to say there used to be people who defend the game hard. However, now that they've spent 2 days playing 8+ hours each day, you can easily start to see what everybody's complaining about. If the game continues to stay like that, he doesn't see themselves playing much more. I think from a marketing perspective, is like you get people to spend money and then you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, if you start to see actual drop off, you can make adjustments to the server and to the game itself. And that could be another round of marketing. Hey guys, we hear you. We're making these changes. You know, I think that ends up being kind of that extra push of marketing where it gets people who've already invested to come back in and see just how bad it is. Gets a whole new round of YouTube videos and conversation going on. Now, another post actually goes into focus in on the sunk cost fallacy, how people spend money, but it's not how they just spend money. It's also how they spend their time in the game itself. And so you could end up getting to a point where you're like, yeah, if you end up spending 30 or 40 or 50 hours, what's the harm in passing them a couple of bucks? And honestly, at the end of the day, like there really isn't. But it's also in how those games and those systems are supported from then on. There's just tends to be, like, I just continue to see more and more games push into this free to play microtransactions because I see the problem is generational. Like I said, parents, don't let your kids play these games. The reason is because they're trained up in that. And so when they step into adulthood, you know, they're going to look at games that cost box dollars versus games that are free. And ultimately the industry will have to shift to the model where it's sustainable. And if you end up saying like you have a bunch of old gamers who are willing to spend the $60 for or $70, depending on, you know, the future, for a box price, and that number is slowly getting smaller and smaller and smaller, the people who are willing to put that money forward. And then you have essentially like people who are like, oh, if you don't release it to free to play, you won't have any ability to kind of get any kind of market penetration. That's going to be something interesting. But with Diablo Immortal, though, I'm watching the Blizzard's victims fall into the trap while spending thousands of dollars trying to get the one thing, thousands of dollars. And that's why I fully expect that we could see easily over the course of, you know, in the next couple of weeks, if not months, where Diablo comes out and says, you know, like, man, this has been so profitable for us. This has been massive for us. We made so much money off of this in that global market, because this goes beyond just like North America, right? This goes into China. This goes into like India, where maybe, yeah, somebody's not spending thousands of dollars, but it does get the brand name out there. It does get that thing going forward. And finally, Rex here as a YouTuber, I heavily covered Diablo Immortal, basically is just getting destroyed in PvP by pay to win players. And that is something I covered again in my core video about this game and its monetization system. And that is essentially where this video ends. Obviously it doesn't feel good to get destroyed, and ultimately makes you choose one thing. Do you want to keep playing, or do you want to spend a little money? And if it's got your hooks in you, the franchise already does. It's the same thing with Final Fantasy. That's why I tend to avoid the gacha Final Fantasy games, namely because I know I'm a simp when it comes to certain franchises. I know that about myself. Know thyself is something very critical and important to this conversation in and of itself. But anyway, guys, game's currently getting review bombed. I don't think it's going to hurt it in the long run. I hope I'm wrong. I'm waiting to see more news to come, especially as it relates to Diablo Immortal. Be wise with your money and your choices. And if you guys are looking for something fun to play, sound off in the comments below. Might have some suggestions for you. But other than that, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for watching and listening, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.